Have you ever done something so silly in your childhood that you still laugh about it years later, but secretly hope nobody else remembers? Well, I have. In fact, I sometimes think God gave me an extra dose of the mischief chromosome. While everyone else was busy becoming responsible citizens, I was busy conducting social experiments, usually at someone else's expense. Looking back, I realized that life has an amazing sense of humor. Whenever I laughed at someone else's problem, life patiently waited for the right moment, and then laughed at me. Today's Sunday story is a collection of some of my most unforgettable adventures: stolen lunch boxes, a sleeping classmate who accidentally became a physics genius, and a greedy boss who discovered that bravery disappears the moment danger knocks at your own door. So grab your favorite cup of tea, sit back, and let's travel back to the good old days, when innocence, stupidity, and comedy walked hand in hand. Our school classroom had a very serious problem. Not exams, not strict teachers, not homework. The real problem was the girls' lunch boxes. Most of us boys came from ordinary middle-class homes. Our lunch usually consisted of the same predictable menu, but the girls in our class, especially the Brahmin girls, would bring lunches that looked like they had been prepared by royal chefs: crispy dosas, soft idlis, tangy lemon rice, puliatarai, coconut chutney, curd rice, and occasionally, heavenly sweets. By lunchtime, the entire classroom would be filled with an aroma so magical that even the school bells seemed to ring a little softer. We would watch those lunch boxes open in slow motion, almost like a Bollywood hero watching the heroine enter the screen for the first time. And every day we would ask ourselves the same question: why did destiny make us spectators instead of participants? Then came one unforgettable Saturday. The timetable was in our favor: fourth period, library, then lunch break. A few of my equally talented and equally irresponsible friends and I looked at each other. No words were exchanged. Great criminal conspiracies don't require speeches. The mission was simple: reach the classroom before everyone else. Open the lunch boxes, eat everything, leave no evidence. In our imagination, we were elite commandos. In reality, we were hungry teenagers with absolutely no self-control. The moment the library period started, we rushed back to the classroom. And ladies and gentlemen, history was created. We attacked those lunch boxes with unbelievable speed and efficiency. Within minutes, every dosa had vanished, every grain of lemon rice had been respectfully appreciated, and every sweet had achieved moksha. We had not merely eaten lunch. We had conducted a full-scale culinary invasion. Now, any sensible person would have escaped quietly. But sadly, I have never claimed to be sensible. Just as we were about to leave, an evil little voice inside my head whispered, "Why not leave a review?" And so we did. In one empty lunchbox, I slipped a handwritten note. Lunch was excellent, dessert was missing, better luck next time. In another, I wrote, dosa was good, but honestly the chutney could have been spicier. Yes, we had stolen their food, and then had the audacity to critique the menu. To this day, I cannot understand how we expected to get away with it. But at that age, confidence comes free of cost. Lunch break began. The girls happily opened their lunch boxes. And then, silence, confusion, shock. One of them screamed. Another discovered the note. Soon the classroom looked less like a school and more like a crime investigation department. The evidence was obvious. The criminals had to be boys. But who? Meanwhile, my friends and I sat quietly, pretending to be innocent victims of the tragedy. Outside, our faces looked calm. Inside, we were laughing so hard that our stomachs hurt more than after eating the stolen lunch. We thought we had committed the perfect crime. Little did we know that destiny was preparing another comedy show, and this time, my best friend would become the hero. After lunch came the most dangerous period of the week: physics, not because the subject was difficult, but because it followed lunch. Our physics teacher, Vedachalam sir, believed every student should actively participate in class. Unfortunately, our digestive systems had a different opinion. Among all of us, my friend Ramakrishna was perhaps the most sincere sleeper in the classroom. The poor fellow was so deeply asleep that if someone had taken attendance in his dreams, he would have answered there. That afternoon, sir asked a difficult question on refraction. The entire class looked down. Nobody wanted eye contact. And then, one of the greatest ideas of my school life entered my brain. I quietly stood behind Ramakrishna and slowly lifted his hand. Sir's face lit up. Excellent. Ramakrishna has the answer. The class turned around in complete disbelief. Ramakrishna, volunteering in physics. This was bigger news than a solar eclipse. We gently woke him up and pushed him to his feet. The poor man stood there rubbing his eyes, looking around as if he had just landed from another planet. Sir smiled proudly and asked, "Well, Ramakrishna, tell us the answer." Ramakrishna looked at Sir, then at us, then at the blackboard, then back at Sir. His face carried only one question. Who am I and why am I standing? The silence grew longer. Finally, Sir understood. Ramakrishna not only didn't know the answer, he didn't even know the question. The entire class burst into uncontrollable laughter. Poor Ramakrishna had unknowingly become the most active participant in physics that year. Even today, whenever old classmates meet, this incident always returns to haunt him. Now, before I tell you what happened in my corporate life, let me quickly explain the business I was working in. Otherwise, the next incident might sound more complicated than my physics class. This was the late 1990s and early 2000s. Car financing was booming across India. We had branches in Gurgaon, Faridabad, and Ghaziabad. Our branch managers and sales teams would find customers who wanted to buy a car but needed a loan. The process looked simple. The customer would bring a down payment, his own contribution, along with money for insurance, road tax, and our processing fee. We would verify his documents, and if everything looked good, our partner bank would approve the loan. Once the approval came through, we would release the money, and the customer would happily drive home in a brand new car. At least that is how it was supposed to work. But my managing director had a rather innovative financial philosophy. Why use today's customer's money only for today's customer, when you can use it for yesterday's customer? If customer number one had already paid his advance but his loan was delayed, Sir would quietly use that money to settle an earlier pending case. Then, when customer number two arrived with his advance, that money would go to customer number one. Customer number three would fund customer number two, and so on. In simple words, it was less a car finance company, and more a relay race where one customer's money chased another customer's car. As long as fresh customers kept coming in, the engine kept running. But the day one file got stuck or one customer became impatient, the entire house of cards started wobbling. And one fine day in our Ghaziabad branch, it didn't just wobble, it arrived carrying a revolver. That customer had paid his advance almost a month earlier, and he had been promised delivery of his car within 15 days. The loan had not been approved, the money had already been diverted elsewhere, and now he was standing in our branch demanding either his car or someone's explanation. Poor Jackar, our Ghaziabad manager, became the first casualty. He was summoned to the MD's cabin, scolded for his inefficiency, and sent back to handle a customer who looked capable of settling the matter with a single pull of the trigger. And that, my friends, is where this corporate comedy suddenly became a suspense thriller, with yours truly accidentally cast as the hero. My boss called me into his air-conditioned cabin. He was smiling confidently. He expected me to say, "Sir, your leadership inspired me." Instead, I said, "Sir, everything is under control. I assured the customer that our managing director is personally handling the matter." He smiled even wider, then I added, "He wanted to know who you were. Jackar was frightened, so he gave your full name." The smile faded, then he asked for your address. Silence, and he also asked about your wife and children. At that exact moment, I witnessed one of nature's greatest miracles. The centrally air-conditioned cabin suddenly failed to stop the beads of sweat rolling down my boss's forehead. The same man who had laughed at Jackar's fear half an hour earlier was now imagining every gangster in North India standing outside his house. He tried to remain calm. He picked up the phone, pretended to be busy, but I could almost hear his heartbeat from across the room. Within 30 minutes, he approved the payment and ordered the issue to be settled immediately. That day, I discovered a universal truth. People enjoy laughing at danger, as long as the danger belongs to somebody else. As I look back today, I don't remember my school marks. I don't remember the difficult physics formulas. I don't even remember what was in my own lunch box, but I vividly remember the laughter. The stolen doses, the sleeping Ramakrishna, the terrified boss, and I realized something beautiful. Life is not measured only by achievements. It is also measured by the smiles we create and the stories we carry. Of course, there is one important lesson I learned. Laugh with people whenever you can. But think twice before laughing at them, because life has a wonderful sense of timing, and karma has a brilliant sense of humor. And who knows? Somewhere today, Ramakrishna may still be wondering why he was suddenly asked to answer that physics question. Thank you for joining me on another Sunday story. If this brought a smile to your face, do share it with your friends and family. Because laughter, unlike lunch boxes, is one thing that becomes more valuable when shared.